Got to stop for another sip of Zinfandel. We've rolled all the little balls. Now they're going to go back in the refrigerator to get hard so we can dip them. You can do this in stages, you know. You can make the balls one day, the innards, and then dip them the next day or several days. Keep them covered. They'll keep for a long time in the refrigerator. So now we're going to temper the chocolate. Basically the same operation. Typically we use about twice as much chocolate for dipping as we do for the insides. You can save the chocolate afterwards if you don't use it all. It just makes it easier dipping if you've got a lot of it. Once we got all this chocolate chopped up, we're going to put it back in the bowl, and we're actually going to do this one in the microwave. Since we're not using any cream to warm up the chocolate, the microwave will do all the work. You want to check it frequently. I'm going to set this for a minute. Half power. Let's check its temperature. 87, 88, 90. There's a spot that's 95. We want to keep it under 114. This is coming along nicely. So this has enough heat in it to let it melt. We'll let it melt for a minute. Tempering is a process where we align all the molecules in the chocolate so it forms a hard, shiny surface. And that's done by a combination of stirring and temperature. So we're going to start with a temperature of around 90 degrees, and we're going to stir it and get the temperature gradually down to 80 degrees. In that drop, in that 10 degrees, it'll temper. First we've got to get it all melted. Some of the early chocolate cookbooks I have recommended against trying to temper chocolate, said only professionals can do this. Well, you can do this at home just by this method. You just got to be patient. We've just about got it completely melted. I use the instant read thermometer. You know, the old dial thermometers are rather slow reacting, so it's a really good idea to have one of these. You can buy little battery operated ones in the supermarket for about $15. This is a more professional one. I found this one online. It's 92, 93 degrees on the edges here where it's the hottest. About 90 degrees in the center. That's just about where we want to start the tempering, right at 90 degrees. In the old days in the candy factories, they dump all this chocolate out on a marble slab. And they'd work the chocolate on the marble slab to cool it down, continually turning it to temper it. Most people wouldn't do that, certainly not in a small batch. So we're going to take more time, and we'll do it in the bowl. We're going to test the tempering. The way that we do that is we dip a spoon in the chocolate. If it's tempered, when it cools it'll be shiny and hard. If it's not, it'll be dull. The reason we're using tempered chocolate is, first of all, it's hard and it's shiny, it looks nice, but also the tempered chocolate doesn't melt in your fingers. The other thing is the tempered chocolate doesn't bloom, you know. It gets untempered chocolate will get a white powdery outside on it. This is gradually dropping in temperature. You can see our spoon over here that we dipped, how dull it is. That means it's not tempered. You could also put this in a water bath if you wanted to speed up the process a little bit. You want to be careful you don't get any water in the chocolate. That will cool it down a little more rapidly. If you do that, you want to make sure you get the bottom. You notice I'm using a spatula instead of a spoon, so you can scrape the bottom because of course the bottom is in contact with the water and it'll cool first. You want it to evenly cool down to 80 degrees. That's where it tempers. It'll continue to go down in temperature until it solidifies, but you can stop when it reaches 78 to 80 degrees. You can actually feel the chocolate change when it tempers. It gets more elastic. It feels different when you're stirring it. Once we get the chocolate tempered, it'll hold the temper unless you get it above 90 degrees. So as you're dipping the chocolate or strawberries or whatever you want to dip in your tempered chocolate, it'll of course gradually start to cool off and get too hard. Then you could put it back in the microwave, very short bursts at half power, to get the temperature back up to 90 degrees so you can continue dipping. If you get it above there, if you get it up to 95 or as high as 100 degrees, you lose the temper and you got to start this operation all over again. It's right at 80 degrees. It'll hold there for a while. We'll continue stirring a little bit. Remember, it's a combination of the temperature and the stirring that makes the difference. We're there now. The chocolate has gotten much more elastic. We'll try another spoon. There's the untempered one, is dull. Tempered one is dry and nice and shiny. This is getting a little stiff now for dipping. Put this back in the microwave for a couple short bursts. We don't want to get it above 90 degrees because we'll lose our temper, but at 90 degrees it'll make it easier for dipping. We're going to dip the chocolate balls that we made this morning. There's a couple ways to do this. The traditional way is with your hand. You load them with one hand, dip them with the other. You can use a little spoon. I like to wear gloves. I've got these trick candy dipping tools. You can often buy these at kitchen supply stores or you can find them online. If you're going to dip by hand, you want to put them in there with one hand, roll them around with the other, knock off the excess, put them on your dish. Give the chocolate a little swirl when you let them down, like that. I'm going to use my dipping tool. Throw it in there, roll it around. It's got to be completely covered now because the inside, when we get to room temperature, these will become almost liquid. So if it's not completely coated with chocolate, the insides will run out. So you roll them around in the chocolate, make sure they're all covered. And again, give them a little spin at the top, gives you a little decoration on the top. Of course, you know chocolate's good for you. It's high in antioxidants. That's one reason we're using dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate. The higher the cocoa content in the chocolate, the more antioxidant quality it has. So it's a perfect complement to red wine, which of course is also very high in antioxidants.
Now, this is the perfect pairing. Oh my.
That's the Zen. Don't be afraid to try this at home. You see, it's very simple. Makes a spectacular dessert. Put one of each on the table for people after dinner. Tell them they're homemade. They'll be very impressed. You can do this. To good health. You'll be able to find the recipe online at www.deerfieldranch.com. It's the winery website. There'll be a link there on the home page for recipes, so check on that. There'll also be a link on the home page for videos.
Two things you need in your refrigerator. You need pesto, you need stock, and you need truffles. That was 3, wasn't it?